or welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to share with you my last bullet journal setup for the month of April, and this one is my 2022 reading journal. My reading journal is a notebook that is dedicated to everything to do with my reading goals and keeping track of the books that I am reading throughout the course of the year. Now, most of the pages have been set up already. They are annual pages, ones that I will just fill out throughout the course of the year, but I do have a couple of layouts that I specifically create for each month of the year. So today I'm going to take you through the setup of my April reading journal pages. This video will be the shortest of all of them because there's not a whole lot for me to do, but I do want to share this with you because it's fun. It's a little bit artsy. It helps me get some of my more decorative stamps and stickers and all of that kind of stuff out, which will be so super fun. I also will mention that this is the only journal that is not going to have that level of cohesiveness across all of my other bullet journals. My reading journal was the very first one that I ever set up, and I went ahead and I set up the entire year at the beginning of the year, or at the end of 2021. So it would make this process a whole lot faster as I was filling it out month to month. So this one is going to look different from the rest of my journals, but I'm totally okay with that. When I get into 2023, I may change that and make all of them have a similar look throughout the year. We'll see. We'll see how I feel when we get to the end of 2022. Now, before we start working on the April pages, I do want to go ahead and flip through the beginning of the year to the current day. That way you can see all of those annual pages. I'll talk to you a little bit about what those pages help me document, and then we will jump into April and get those pages set up for next month. One last thing I will mention is that this reading journal was inspired by Heba Al-Sabai, who is my little journal here on YouTube. I will put her videos and her channel in the description box down below to check her out. She creates an annual reading journal in an Archer and Olive notebook and inspired me to create one too. A lot of my pages look just like hers, and then some of them I have created myself throughout the years of doing this. This is my second year doing the reading journal here. So I do have some new pages that don't look like hers, but some of them do, and I will definitely let you know if the specific layout was one that I copied from her. That way you can go and check hers out if you want to learn more about that specific layout. All right, friends, I'm gonna go grab my beverage. Let's meet up at my table and start planning together. All right, friends, before we start working on my reading journal pages for the month of April, let's do a quick flip through of my current setup and the pages that I'm using for 2022. I do have some pages that I did back in 2021, and I did a really good job keeping up with those pages until we put our house on the market in May. So a lot of my documenting of my reading stopped about halfway through the year. This year, I'm hoping to carry it through the entire year, and so far, so good. So we begin here with my 2022 title page, and I just added this little label. It says what I read, and decorated it with these kind of, I don't even know, they're almost like a flower or almost like a firework, just to give it a little bit of color. Then on the first page here, I have my 22 reading review, where I've added a section for each month of the year where I can fill in how many books I read during that month, and that will help me keep a pretty good idea on the flow of my reading throughout the year. I also have an area to document the format, so physical, digital, or audio, of the books I'm reading, the ratings of the books I'm reading, the authors, and the genres. So this information I will likely fill out at the end of the year once I have all of my monthly pages completed. This page here is a place to jot down any recommendations I get for books that I would like to purchase or read in the future. And then I have this book Shelfie. This page is one that I scrap lifted or I copied off of Heba, who is my little journal. And this is just a really fun way to document the books that you're reading throughout the year. I hand drew everything on here because, well, not everything, all of the books I hand drew because I don't have a stamp set or I didn't at the time, that was big enough to fit on these shelves. I have since purchased a stamp set that will allow me to stamp out my books instead of drawing my books, and that will save a lot of time in the future. And then I used a bunch of my other stamp collections to decorate the shelf with bird cages and potion bottles and coffee cups and plants and all kinds of stuff like that. This is really such a fun page for me, and what I do is I fill in the name of the book and then color that in once I have finished it. This next page is another one that I copied from Heba. This is my everyday reading challenge, and what I have here is a space, or this little bar of space, for every single day of the year. I color it in based on the number of pages I read that day, and if they are left blank, then I did not read that day. The hope for this is to help me pick up a book and read every single day of the year, and generally I read on the lower level because I'm reading right before bed and trying not to stay up too late, but sometimes it does lend itself to some longer days of reading, and that's pretty awesome. This next page is one that I copied from another booktuber and book journaler, and her name is Mackenzie. I'm also going to have her channel and her video where I drew inspiration from linked in the description box down below. So this is my book of the year, and what I do is I'm printing off these little tiny book covers for my favorite book of the different months. Then they go into a bracket system over on the right hand side that's going to narrow down my favorite book to my #1 book of the year by the end of 2022. This is another page from Mackenzie where it's just documenting the book of the month book that I picked for that particular month. So I've got the 3 months that have happened so far, and I've also been putting in a backlog of my book of the month books that I have purchased or that I've added on to my orders, or some that are in my stash already. I actually have quite a few more than this, I just haven't filled it all the way in. This is a page that I decided I wanted to do this year to help me track reading to my kids every day. This is something my husband and I try really hard to do, and something we know is really important for their development. So just like the everyday challenge that I copied from Heba, I took this same page design, but I'm using it to document our kids' daily reading. So here I have a color that designates the person who read the book. So yellow is my husband, teal is myself, and green would be other if they go stay at my parents' house or something of that matter. And then inside the boxes, I've also notated the type of book, whether it is a picture book, so P is for picture book, C is for chapter book, and B is for board book. This next page is another reading tracking log, and this one is specifically for my daughter. Part of her homework, she's in 1st grade this year, is to read 20 minutes every single night. So this is a way for me to keep track of her reading, to make sure that we're actually reading her books with her, and or having her read her books to us, and keeping a gauge on how she is progressing with that. So I'm just filling in the little calendar days with a color. I've just picked a different color for every month, and once she has read her 20 minutes, I color that in, and that helps me track it. This last page here, which has nothing written into it yet, is on my shelf. I wanted to take stock of all of the books I have currently on my shelf that I have not read. The reason I haven't filled this out yet is because a lot of our books are still in boxes. We haven't unpacked them and put them into our office yet. So I'm waiting for that to happen. And then I'll be able to come in here and jot down the books that I own, that I have not read. After this, so those are all of my annual pages and things that I'm trying to track every day. Then I flow into some monthly pages. So my monthly pages was an idea that stemmed from a couple of layouts I did in my October daily and my December daily memory keeping projects. I had one layout in each of those where I created a themed bookshelf to talk about the books that I was reading in that specific month. I had so much fun going through my stamps and finding pieces that I could decorate my bookshelf with for the month that was themed for the month, that I decided I wanted to do that all throughout the year. So for my monthly pages, they are all set up the exact same. I have the month stamped up at the top with books underneath, and then I have this bookshelf for some of them that I have not gotten to yet. Like I can go to April. So like here I have the shelf drawn, but I don't have any of the books drawn on there yet or any of the decorations. So that's something that we're going to be working on today. I drew in my books. I'm writing on the titles of the books that I actually read throughout the month, and then the rest of it's just fun. It's just fun and decoration for me. Below the bookshelf, I have a wish list and a what I bought list, so I can keep track of books that I might want to purchase in the future, and then books that I actually purchased in the month. And then I have my total number of books read and my favorite book of the month. This little space here is blank, and I'm just using that for decoration. Next, I have a reading bingo page. I have a Patreon, and in that Patreon, we meet once a month for a book club to discuss a book that we've picked for that month. In addition to the book club, we also put together, my younger sister and I, put together a bingo card that's themed for each of the months. So this was our January bingo card, and it's just a fun way to challenge ourselves to read different books than we might normally pick up, or to reward ourselves for actually reading books that month. So these are pieces that I print out and I stick in here with some adhesive and then check them off as I do them. I have my title up here that says January Reading Bingo, and then that's the card. This page is very similar to my annual stats page here, but this one, I'm keeping track of the number of books I read, the number of pages that equated to, and then the format, author, rating, genre, some extra notes, and then this is a place for me to keep track of where the book came from. Was it a library book, book of the month, something in my stash, a gift, that sort of thing. The last page I have for the monthly setup is my book club page. For this one, I'm printing out the covers of the 2 books that we read and then giving myself some space to jot down some notes or thoughts, ideas, that sort of thing that come up from actually reading the books. Here is my February pages. So here you can see I did a theme of pinks and reds and florals. For this one, I used a combination of stamps and stickers, and I thought that was really, really fun. Here's the monthly bingo card, my stats for the month, and the 2 books I read for book clubs. This was a book club book for my Patreon, and this is a book club book for my local book club. Here are my March pages. We're in the middle of March right now, so I haven't totally filled everything in yet. For this one, I used a bunch of stickers and some stamps. Again, I'm really enjoying combining those 2 mediums onto these pages. I went for a more green plant type of look and used a lot of green for my coloring. Here's the bingo card for this month. And then so far I've printed the first book. This was my local book club book, and then I need to print a cover of the book Untamed, which is what we read for my local one. So that is essentially my book reading journal. I do have some pages in the back. Let's go to those really quick just so you can see. I have this A to Z author challenge. Last year I did the A to Z reading challenge, which I learned about from Heba. I didn't do very good with it. My younger sister did. She actually, I think she read 24, 25 out of the 26 letters. And she told me that it was really difficult to find titles beginning with every letter of the alphabet. Specifically, a book starting with X, and then I think a book starting with maybe Z. So I thought instead maybe what I could do this year is change it up and try to have my authors be my A to Z. So we'll see how that goes. This is another page that I am copying from Mackenzie, which is my Book of the Month challenge. I have these 3 circles that I can color in once I've read the books. This is to read 12 books from Book of the Month. This is to read 5 different genres, and this is to read 3 books that are debut authors. I haven't filled any of this out yet either, but we'll get there. I'll get there. And then the last 2 pages are just an overview of my book clubs. So the Spiral Bound Book Coven is my local book club. And so far we've read Dear Woman, When They Call You a Terrorist, and then this month we read Untamed. So I'm printing off the photos, and it's just going to be a very visual sort of representation of the books that we read. The actual reviews are what I'm putting in my monthly pages. And then I have one more for my Patreon book club, which we call Shelf Life Book Club. And I have 3 of them printed out. And it just, I don't know, I really like the look of having all of those covers all together. And then that will be the end of my 2022, and I'll have probably enough pages to do 1 more year inside of this particular notebook. All right, so here's what we're gonna do. I am going to put you on fast forward while I get my April pages done, so I can show you kind of how I do that. And then from there, that's pretty much going to be it. I'm not sure if these are videos that I will continue the reading journal and the daily journal, just because there's not a whole lot of variability in them. You can let me know in the comments down below, though, if these are videos that you do enjoy seeing, and if you would like to see the monthly book club or book setup. So let's get these April pages put together. Once I have them done, we'll do a quick flip through at the end, and then this video will be completed. So let's dive in. To get started with putting together my April reading pages, the first thing I did was to pull over a variety of stamp sets that I own that are themed for reading. A couple of these are newer to me stamps, and so some of the sentiments I'm not totally familiar with, which is why I keep pulling them over and re-looking at them to see if anything is catching my eye. I immediately pulled off the larger stack of books. That is from a reading stamp set from Studio Calico, and I will be sure to link that and all of the supplies I'm using today down in the description box below. I'm going to use that on my bookshelf that I will draw for this month, and then I'm also looking to fill in this empty space in the bottom right corner with some kind of decoration. In addition to the stamps that I have pulled out, I have also gathered a couple of sheets of stickers from Pip Sticks that I am contemplating using on this month's layout. I have these beakers, like science beakers, that have flowers in them, and they're filled with the more spring-colored liquids. I also have a set of stickers that have frogs that are pink and green, in addition to some like mushroom little icons. And then I also have a border sticker set that I will test out on the page and decide that I don't like it and take it back off and put it back away. So Using all of these supplies, I'm filling in some of the empty spaces. On the last page where I will be talking about my book club books, I did use a title piece that says book review, and then I also added this book icon, like an open book, above the book review title. I kind of wish I would have done that in a gray color instead of the black, just because the black is really, really like bold for the page, but it's okay, I'm gonna live with it. Once I have my books stamped out on the bookshelf there, the next thing I need to do is go ahead and trace over all of my lines for the different spaces I have throughout these pages. On the front there, I had a bookshelf, and then I have a two-tiered or like a column of boxes where there are two areas for a title and then areas to fill stuff in. The second page there, I have spaces to put a bunch of different titles. That's where I'm going to include all of my different stats. And then those last two boxes you saw me draw in, those were for my book club books that I will print off pictures for and stick those in the spot later. To make my review a little bit easier to write in here, I am using a gray marker to create some kind of wonky looking lines that I can then use to add my hand journaling to. So that's pretty much going to be it for that last page, except for the little bits of decoration that I will do later. I also printed off some photos so I could fill in a couple of the missing spots throughout my earlier pages, and we'll do that a little bit later. I colored in my title pieces here with my mild liner markers from Zebra. So the brown is what I used for the shelf itself, and then I'm using a pink color to fill in all of my title header pieces. This page right here is where I'm writing in all of my different stats. So I've got format at the top, letting me document whether I read the book physically, digitally, or I listened to it as an audiobook. For the author section, I have female, male, LGBTQ+, POC, and neurodivergent. And then I have also an area for ratings going from 5 all the way down to did not finish. I have a section for where the book came from, whether it was from the library, book of the month, a gift, or just from my stash. And then I have a place to add in my genres, which I will do throughout the month, since I will probably only read a couple of different genres, so I don't need to fill in an entire list. So now we're just going to go back to decorating the pages. One thing I do want to mention about this first page here is on a couple of my other monthly layouts, I used the two boxes where there's the pink header to record my wish list and my purchased list. I found that I wasn't really using the wish list box, so instead I'm turning that into a TBR list for that particular month, TBR meaning to be read. So what I will do before the beginning of the month is I will write in all of the books that I hope to read in the month of April. So when I finish my books, I can come back to this list to figure out what I want to read next. Using my stickers to decorate these pages does make my reading journal a little bit more whimsical than the other journals that I'm working inside of. My everyday planner, my work planner, and my daily journal are all going to be not quite as whimsical as this one, but it does give me a really fun way to use up a bunch of these stickers. I subscribed to the Pipsticks sticker bundles for a number of months and built up quite a stash that I found I was not using. So this encourages me to grab them back out, to stick a bunch of them down and use them up, right? So I am just using those stickers to provide a little bit of decoration, going back and forth between using the beaker set, which also has a bunch of floral elements, and the frogs and mushrooms. It's a bit questionable whether the frogs and the beakers go together, but I'm just going to make it work because I like the way that it fills in the pages with things that are both big, because a lot of those beaker pieces are actually quite big, and then other pieces that are a bit smaller, like these little tiny mushrooms on the frog stamp set. Once I get all of these stickers put down on the page, and I'm just trying to balance out the amount of pink and the amount of florals and the amount of frogs and all of that on the pages. Once I feel like that's in a good place, I'm going to bring over the images that I printed, which are the covers of the books that I have read for book club. That is what the Cinderella is Dead and the Untamed book by Glennon Doyle. Those are both book club books that I'm going to add into my book club book review page, and also into the end of my album or the end of my notebook, where I've got the year at a glance with all of those photos. And then I also printed this one to add into my book of the year bracket system. Once I have all of those photos adhered down into my notebook, I will call my layouts done. I hope that you enjoyed seeing how all of my pages came together and the flip through of what I had already created in the past. If you did, I would love a thumbs up on this video down below, and make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and do a final flip through, and then friends, I will catch you in the next video. Bye now.